Yo, what's up guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Brema, and in today's episode, I'll be teaching you guys how to screen print halftone effect. So everything from transferring a photorealistic image to bitmap on Photoshop, and then sending that out to get burned onto a screen, and then finally getting to screen print in-house, which is usually the fun part for me, experimenting with the printing technique. Hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Stay tuned, and hopefully you learned something from this. All right guys, so we'll dive into the first few steps to getting your image ready for transparency, so the burning stage. I start off by selecting, the type of image that you want to make, and then open up Photoshop. So far, I have 2 images selected, so I'm going to open up Photoshop. The way I like to do this by just opening up like File, New, and then making sure your resolution is at 300 here. And I like to work by inches because that's where dimensions. So let's say tutorial for YouTube. And then here, a lot of time, most screens, the screens that I like to use are 20 by 24 inches. So I'll just make sure that the dimension are the same. So 20 by 24, create. So this is basically my screen here. So I'm gonna go open up my folder, drag the 2 images that I like here, and then size them up to however. Usually there's like small things that I've learned along the way. So like for t-shirt, a lot of times, you have like four fingers before like the graphic starts. And then by knowing that, I could kind of get an idea of like how big I want the graphic to be. So I work mainly with t-shirts. It's kind of like my canvas. So, but you could print these on any surface, any flat surface that you'd want to. So let's start off by just, I think I would want it to be around like maybe 10 inches. So like there, that looks pretty good. So I'll just enter. And then here's the other image. I'll make this one, say maybe 12 inches. So something like that's good. And we're gonna print both image on one screen just to save us a bit of like, I guess, money. And a lot of times you just want to flip your image so that you could tape one side, print one, and then once you're done printing, you can just tape it and then rotate your screen to the other one. It's just a simple way to like save money on burning. Gonna just rotate this image. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then the next step is just converting the image into making it black and white. So grayscaling it, mode grayscale. This is gonna like flatten everything. Okay, so everything is black and white right now. Usually I would save this as just reference. So file, save as. And a lot of times with most of the files that I work with, I try to save everything as PDF, just so when you send it out, like things don't end up changing size or anything like that. So I'll save this one as Photoshop PDF. It's all labeled 20x24. Save. Okay. Save PDF. And then next step I just saved it as just black and white image just in case. So some places that burn screen for you, like they like to do the bit mapping themselves. So I just usually would send them that option too. But I'm gonna go ahead now and bit map it. And you do this by going on image mode, bitmap. I usually have the output at 300. Okay, and then I like to just mess around with these. Right now it's at like 65. Let's try maybe a few different ones. Let's try 30 for the frequency. As you could see, when I zoom in, everything is like detailed out. But the dots seem to be a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna redo it one more time. Maybe try a higher number just to see if I could get more detail here. So Command Z, and then I'll try that one more time. Okay, let's try 50. Cool. So seems like there's more detail now. So the higher number, the more detail it is. This one's a bit funky because there's a lot of different shades of black here. There's a lot of grays here, and then there's darker. So this will be a good test to see how well this will, I guess, translate to screen. So everything looks good here. I'm gonna just save it and get it ready. As you guys know, like I don't currently have the access to burn screens in-house, so I send it out. But if you're doing this in-house, we have a few other videos you could reference on how we burn our screens and how we wash it out and everything like that. These are gonna get burnt at a higher count mesh, so something around like maybe 180 or 200. Maybe the higher the mesh, the more finer detail you could get. So with a lot of images, when you have so much detail, it means you just have a lot of like dots in your image file. So you want to just go with a higher mesh count. But the best way to like learn these things is to just keep trying different meshes. I know like when you burn 110, it's usually for like more bolder graphics. 160, you could get a little bit more detail, but the higher the mesh count, the more detail you could get. But if you guys have your own like burning places, I would just say experiment as much as you can, just so you could get a better grasp on screen printing and also just what different count mesh could achieve. So I'll save this one. Again, same things, save it on my computer as PDF. I'll probably rename this one. I'll include the mesh count on the mesh 200 on the file name. So save. Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, so the next step from here is sending the file over to the screen printing shop that's going to burn it for us, so we don't do that in-house. And a lot of time, I think some of the benefits that we get from sending the files out is it's going to get processed by a professional, someone who's gonna, not mess up. And I know like throughout my whole journey of screen printing, there was a time where I would mess up a lot of screens, so it was very discouraging. But right now, the fact that we don't have access to a darkroom and we can just send this out and pay somebody else to handle it. And if they messed up, of course, they're a professional shop. They'll replace the screen and everything like that. So that's one I guess, positive for sending stuff out. So we'll do that. We'll prep it. We'll send it to Mclogan, which they're like right down the street from us. And then next day we could pull up and just pick up the screen, ready to go. All right, guys. So basically, when you're sending out the email, just make sure you have everything detailed in there. You want to give them as much detail as possible. So for me, I attached the grayscale version and also the bitmap, just in case one doesn't work and if they prefer using the other one that way. And I make sure everything is sized and ready to go. So I'm gonna send out the email, and then we'll pick up tomorrow because that's when they'll have it done, and then we'll check in then. All right, guys, so it's the next day and we got the screen made. As you could see here, the images are burnt into the screen. I'll just show you guys a quick comparison between a vector graphic, which is more fine. You could see like the lines are very like fine on this. And then on a halftone image, it's just more dotted, kind of low resolution. You could see dots throughout the whole image. So it's kind of just the same process. just wanted to show you guys a quick example. So the next thing I'm gonna do is set the screen up, and then we could start testing the prints. Alright guys, so basically once you have your screen all ready to go, my technique that I like to do with these halftones is just pulling. So lightly pulling and then applying a lot of pressure. Okay, let's see what this looks like. I mean, right away, like, the contrast is pretty nice. I could see the screen print, kind of the studio. I don't know what this streak here is, so I'll probably run another test print before it's like perfectly good to go. So I'll just dry this one and then run another sample. All right, so as you guys could see, it took me probably around 8 tries, probably more, to kind of get an idea of like how the type of process for me. Right now I'm just gonna pull. I'm just gonna flood it and then pull with a lot of pressure. That seemed to give me like the perfect result for me. So the whole thing with screen printing, I think it's just like a lot of like trial and error. You just wanna make sure you're dialing in your processes before you could run a production. So that's why I'm doing a lot of like samples on these sheets of paper. So as you guys can see, this one came out pretty good. It's kind of exactly what I was like hoping for. You have like a really nice darker tone here in the shadow. Referencing back to the image, this is kind of like exactly what it looks like. There's still like, you get details, and then there's like a bunch of different tonals of gray within the image that I like. Compared to some of these other ones, these came out pretty dark. I think I was just pushing too hard on the squeegee. And then this one, the first few ones had like these little streaks of water. It's probably from watching the screen, but on the final production, there's no sign of that in here. All right, so now since I have the great sample that I like, I'm gonna just run it on a t-shirt. We're just gonna do one t-shirt for this tutorial. But usually when I'm running production with kind of like these halftones, I'll just make sure maybe print 10 at a time and just making sure my screen is still good and there's not much flooding of ink, because a lot of time ink tend to like bleed under, and then you kind of don't get the desired look you're going for. So same thing, flooding, and then I mean, just looking at the final result, everything looks good as far as the print and the contrast that I'm looking for. There's a good range of dark and light within the image. You could see everything clearly. I could almost see like some of the stickers that were on the screen print. And yeah, every small details in there is prevalent. So I think this one's good. So the next thing we're gonna do is print the camera one. Hopefully, I'll grab another. I'll do a few sample runs before I could print it on a t-shirt, just to kind of get a comparison of like the two different images. Yeah, I'm gonna plug this thing back on. All right, now I have the camera, the Mamiya RZ ready. Same process. I mean, I feel like I kind of got it in the groove. I have an idea of like what this is gonna look like. So I'm just gonna flood and then pull with more pressure. God, here, let me just clean this up real quick. All right. Just like that. That one came out really good. So much perfect. I just see a little bit of inconsistency right here, but for first try, this looks really good. Almost look three-dimensional from afar. Dude, this is pretty cool actually. Yeah, just by observation, I feel like I really like this one because there's a lot of I guess shades of grays in here and highlights and whatnot. You could almost see it looks more realistic than this one. This one has much darker, and I lost a few details here. I think the screen was just flooded. So something between these two. There's a streak here that I didn't like, so I might, if I were to run production, I'll probably do a few other more tests before I could run a production. So for this one, I would just try to get it as close to this one as possible without this streak here. But sometimes after you print for a while, for a longer time, the ink tend to like bleed more onto the screen, which makes it a little darker sometimes. But yeah, that one compared to those two are much better compared to the first one I did on the front here. Let's see if we get a comparison of the actual camera. Like that. All right, so these are some of the other larger images that we've done in the past. As you could see on these ones, the holes are much larger because it's a larger image. The bigger the image, sometimes the hole passage for the ink are much larger. But yeah, these were fun to print. I think one thing with halftones, you could go as crazy as you want because you could enlarge the image as big as you want or as small as you want, and you still kind of get the same picture-like quality on these. I'll show you guys some of the other smaller ones we've done in the past. So in comparison to the Basquiat one, this one is a smaller image. As you could see, it's much finer since it's much smaller. You almost can't even tell. You can't even see the holes in these because they're so tiny. But with this one, it's very prevalent. Wow. I did not think that was going to come out that good. Look, in our building now. That's probably one of the coolest shirts we've ever printed. So cool. Wow. All right, so if you guys made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate you guys watching all the way through. I hope you picked up something new from this video. As you could see, like screen printing to me, it's just a bunch of like experimenting. You try a bunch of different ways of doing things, and you find ones that work, and you find some that don't really translate as well. So just experiment as much as you can, and also stay hungry. There's a lot of, we've put a lot of YouTube videos on just tutorials on how to burn screens. I know on this video specifically, we didn't go through that process. We outsourced it, but if you could reference back to our channel, there's how to burn screens and kind of like doing everything from step one to completion. So make sure to go check that out. Feel free to leave a like to this video if you learned something. Leave a comment below. It does help a lot to get this video out to more people. Again, subscribe. Stay tuned for more.